Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the fourth episode of my No Regrets podcast. And I'm happy to host a good friend of mine, Mike CALCE. Mike is a real estate investor. Mike is a first responder. And Mike is a mindset and performance coach. Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, man. The honor's mine. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome, man. So, why did you agree to be here?
Well, that's a good question, actually. Because like truthfully, it's exciting, but it's terrifying as well, right? But I've known you for a little bit, man. I got to know you, and I've got to see your journey and got to know you as a person, and I just really I was just always drawn to you, like right from the get-go. So once you started this podcast, I was like, yeah, you know what? I think I'll start watching that, and I'll start seeing it. And you invited me on, and I thought, yeah, I'll do that. This sounds like something that I want to do.
Awesome, man. You know what? The honor and the pleasure is mine. Seriously, dude.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks. I appreciate you thinking about me and thinking about, about inviting me on.
So before we get into it, can you just expand a bit for the audience on your mindset and performance coach? If you want to just touch on that a little bit, what that looks like, so people kind of know where you're at.
Well, you hear it all the time, right? You hear people talk about mindset as being everything. And I'm sorry if I don't know if you can hear a dog barking in the background, but
all good.
But yeah, like I find that a lot of people have lost belief, lost hope, and just kind of given up on their dreams. And I just believe, like truly believe that that mindset is the difference maker. So when you do something like this, and like your no regrets and stuff like that, like a lot of people are living in regret, living in the past, and believing that that's defined them, that's what's made them who they are, and that they can't change that. I mean, I'd like to kind of bring people out of that. There is a process to it. There's a process of getting people, like to borrow from Tim Grover, right? Getting from good to great and from great to unstoppable. It's something that is possible, right? And it's just a matter of getting people out of their own way and allowing them to really flourish. Not just survive, but like actually thrive, in life.
And you know what, Mike? That's why I wanted to bring you on, because of your mindset, because of how you think. I think you have a lot of value to add to the audience, and so I think that's fantastic. So no regrets. Why does this topic matter?
Well, I kind of touched upon it. Like, I think so many people are living in that space, living in regrets. And I find that if you, it's one of those things, man. Like if you're living in your regrets, you just can't move forward. You just can't, like you remain kind of stuck in the past. It's kind of like trying to drive down the highway, looking in your rearview mirror. I mean, like you're not going to go very, very far, very, very fast. And if you do, you're just going to crash. So,
and you know what? Not a lot of people talk about it, right? You don't hear a lot of people talking about regrets and how to move on from past regrets and how to live intentionally, and make the most of our time here on this planet, right? And so I think that it's awesome that we can talk about this and that we are. And I really hope I can do justice with my podcasts for the topic, to help people. And so I think that's why it really matters, because a lot of people have regrets and they don't know what to do about it, right?
And you said something pretty important there as well, right? We only get one kick at the can here, right? And it's almost like I was kind of thinking about this, like because I really do try not to live with regret or whatever. Although a little healthy fear of regret, like it might be actually pretty good, right? Leave it all on the table, right? And so that you can kind of look back on life and go, yeah, I did it right. I did everything I could, and I took full advantage of everything that was given to me.
Yeah, and I mean, like taking the chance, taking the risk, trying the thing, whatever that looks like for you, whether it works out or not, the fact that you did it and and you gain that experience, you will never wonder if or why didn't I, or things like that, right?
Right. Yeah.
So for you, so you said that you try to live without regrets, but what does that look like for you personally in your life?
I guess I never really thought about it before. Before, like, this is a relatively recent thing for me, to try not to live with regrets. Like, actually putting some thought into it and actually, making an effort to not do that. But one thing I've somewhat been pretty good at throughout my life is trying to operate within my area of control, right? Understanding that, and I'm more intentional about it now. But I mean, kind of understanding that what's happened in the past, I can't change. What I can do is I can accept what's happened. I can accept the situation or whatever it is. I can take responsibility for my part in it, whatever that is. I can learn from it and take as many whatever lessons I can from it, and then just move on. Like figure out what is this situation, or what does this require of me moving forward, and then just kind of start focusing on the next steps and go from there.
So you said it's a relatively recent change of mindset, like trying to live without regrets in your life. Just curious, what brought that on for you personally?
Well, funny enough, actually, it really came down to a couple of years ago, and actually, you were part of this journey. You're right there, kind of at the beginning of it. Just going all in on my personal development, right? Just deciding that, hey, you know what? Let's go. Let's see what an investment into myself is going to reap. And then once I started doing that, then I started reading a lot more. I went from reading less than one book a year to reading over 20 books a year. And that's not even a lot, right? But and just kind of growing a thirst for growth, a thirst for knowledge, and just kind of learning more about myself and really develop myself and see what I could get out of myself. And through that's kind of where I started kind of reading into stuff like, hey, listen, you know what? I'm a big fan of, I don't know if you've ever heard of Trevor Moawad. He was actually Russell Wilson's coach.
Okay.
He called it his mental conditioning coach, whatever. And he called it getting to neutral, just being neutral. And that's just basically not getting too up, but definitely not getting too down. What did he used to say? There's positivity doesn't work all the time. Sorry, I don't know why I struggle.
Oh, good.
But we do know, and there's a lot of evidence and a lot of studies that have shown that negativity works negatively 100% of the time. So
Yeah, give an example of that.
well, the mind's a powerful thing, right?
Mhm.
Like it's like all the thoughts and like we have the ability to create our reality in our own mind. That's what dreams are. Like if you've ever had a dream that's been um, like so vivid that you actually thought you were there, right? Um, that like you felt you woke up the next morning, maybe you did something in your dream that you like actually felt guilty about like the next day, right? Like I don't know if it like I know a lot of us have had those kinds of or like the dreams that are just so vivid that you're like I don't know if that was real or not. But that is the power of the mind. You are able to create that. So if you tell yourself, they call it and some people call it the power of the subconscious mind as well, which is a good book as well. But once you start creating these negative thoughts in your mind, those negative things will happen. Like if you believe that something's going that you're going to fail at something, then 100% of the time you're not going to perform well. You're not going to do well. There's actually, and funny enough, actually, and I'll borrow another story from Trevor Mowat, but I don't know. I don't know if anybody, if any of your listeners or followers are gonna how old they are or anything like that. But back in the '80s, there was when the Red Sox they had the curse, right? And they were playing the World Series, and there was a guy named Bill Buckner. He was the first baseman, and the long short of it is the last game of the World Series. They're up to bat. There's one out left. Boston's winning, and the ball gets hit to him at first base. It's an easy ground ball. All he has to do is pick it up, touch first base, and the curse is over. The Boston Red Sox win
Right.
the World Series, right? But what happens is instead is the ball like somehow he lifts his glove up too fast or something like that, and it trickles under his glove. Mookie Wilson's safe at first, and the tying run comes in a score. And I don't know if the winning run came in after that as well, like right after that. But they ended up that was the game that they lost, and essentially Bill Buckner, was considered the GOAT, not in a good way, right, of the game, right? And lost it. So the important thing about that is, right, and we go back to negativity working negatively 100% of the time. They found an interview with Bill Buckner, I think maybe 18 days before the World Series, and he's talking, and there's no proof that this had anything to do anything, but it makes you think. And he says, the dream is, right, that I make the winning play or do whatever and we win the World Series.
Okay.
The nightmare is having the winning run go through your legs.
No kidding.
Like 18 days before this even happens. So I mean, and there's plenty of evidence, in real life and stuff like that. Like I can't come up with every example of it, but there's plenty of examples and evidence that those negative thoughts do come back and they will affect your performance negatively. So
Yeah, no, that makes sense, Mike. Touching back on personal development, you went all in on personal development. So did I. Around the same time, what is the importance of personal development? A lot of people think it's raw garbage, waste of time. Like, what is the value in personal development?
I'd say it's so going back to your brain and your thoughts, right? You believe it or not, like everything that you think, everything that's in your mind or whatever, every thought that you have, they're all made up, right? You make them up. You're the author, right? You like oftentimes you hear you're the author of your own story. You're the star of your own movie.
Right.
you write your own script, right?
Hmm.
And it's going back to the power of the mind, right? Like if um, it's something that has to be. I think it's human nature to search for the negative. We're automatically drawn to the negative, and that's something that's something that's is almost ingrained in us. It was a survival mechanism, right?
Yeah.
Because we had to be able to we had to be able to look and go like where's the danger here, or like what's going to happen, stuff like that. So we have to kind of train ourselves to get out of that and actually flip the script and flip your perspective and say, hey, listen, you know what? Where's the opportunity here, right? And what can I do? I think personal development, like it is kind of a buzzword, but it's really an investment into yourself in somehow, and being able to create that create that story that you want to be a part of, create that person that you want to be.
It's interesting because where I've really seen personal development helpful in my life is when everything's going wrong. You know, when everything's working against you, what is your mindset? What is your character? How are you going to handle it? Um, you know, what I've can handle. Wow, that's a big jug.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
What I can handle now would have crushed me 2 years ago.
Mhm.
And a lot of that is through personal development and working on my mindset, and really developing myself to be able to handle more and more and more. And honestly, that's what life has handed me, which is more and more and more. And I really see, I don't know where I'd be right now without personal development and, of course, my faith as well. But I really see the value, especially when times are tough. What are you really made of? And so there's a lot of value in that. So that makes sense to me, anyways. And so I guess I just want to, explain it for the audience that there is value in developing the right mindset and personal development. Like, before I was 35, I probably read 3 books in my life, and from 35 to 38, I probably read 30 books, almost all of them focused on some kind of personal development or things like that. Right. And like right now, I'm reading the book called The Obstacle is the Way, and it's all about perspective and not giving up and really pushing through and turning the obstacles around into success stories. And so, considering I'm wrapping up the hardest year of my life, it's kind of cool. It's cool to read what other people have been through, how they turned it around, and that, it's not over. This is a blip. Anyone who's going through a really tough time in their life, this is a moment in your life. This isn't your life, And so it's just, it's cool to be able to think that way, instead of it bringing you down and paralyzing you, whether it's fear or whatever it may be. And just to give another example of that, like, I might still lose this house. Like, I'm in this house. We bought it in the spring. My mortgage renews. Looks like my payment might double. And I don't know what we're going to do. Now, that being said, we're going to do everything we can in our power. And I'm not going to worry about it today, even though I might want to. And so, in the midst of the struggle and in the midst of the, negativity going on, having the right mindset and the personal development helps you push through, helps you keep going, helps you to have a healthy perspective, that that can benefit you instead of bringing you down. Because of everything that's happened, I'm not brought down. I was temporarily, but I've pulled through it. And so there's a ton of value in personal development.
There's
So,
a big thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, to build on that, right? Like it really helps you to build resilience, so that you know that when things go wrong. Yeah. Sorry, I thought I lost you there for a sec.
No. I'm just writing. I'm making notes, man.
Yeah. Like when you start to do that, you start to realize, hey, you know what? Everything's figure outable. We can figure this out, right? It's just another problem to be solved. You start to build resilience, and I think that's what a lot of people are lacking, or it's underdeveloped in a lot of people is resilience, right? And unfortunately, we're living kind of in a time where that we're trying to make everybody feel comfortable. We're trying to feel like we're trying to, and it's coming from a good place too, right? Like we want to help what we can, right? We've gone away from teaching people to fish versus just giving them fish, right? So I mean, I find that that's resilience is lacking a lot of people, where like something bad happens and they can't get out of it. It goes back to the whole regrets thing, right? And then they're just stuck. So
yeah, man, that makes perfect sense. And like, just to touch on that, I think like taking extreme ownership in your own life, right, versus having the victim mindset. I find more and more people have the victim mindset around me, and I hate it. And I think taking extreme ownership is one of the keys to actually making the most out of your life, right? Mm-hmm. Not blaming the government, not blaming the market, not blaming anything, except taking extreme ownership, not blaming a bad business partner or circumstances, right? Mm-hmm. Taking extreme ownership. And I think that is absolutely critical to moving on and the beginning of living without regrets.
And to be fair, a lot of people don't know that they can do that, right?
It's also hard.
But it's even harder when you don't know that you do. It's even harder when you feel like life is just happening to you versus having some semblance of control. And a lot of people don't realize that there is that, there's a lot more. I like to say, the good news is you control a lot more than you think. Mm-hmm. The bad news is you control a lot more than you think.
That's true. I think part of it is exactly what you said. People aren't aware, but I also think looking in the mirror is the hardest place someone can look.
Oh yeah.
Taking extreme ownership for any failures, or let's say life hasn't gone the way you would have hoped or expected. It's much easier to point the finger and blame someone else, right?
Right.
And so I think there's ignorance. People aren't aware that they can. And then the other side is people just don't want to, because it's one of the hardest things I think you can do is look in the mirror, take stock of yourself, have that self-awareness, like I effed up, I need to get my life back on track, and only I can do it. No one is coming to save me. Right.
Right. Yeah. That is true too. That is the other side of the coin, right? Where, feeling like life is happening to you. That's one side where you're like, oh man, like I don't know that I can change that. But you're right. Like the other side of the coin is it does offer some protection as well for them to be able to say, well, it's not my fault.
I got unlucky, right? I got unlucky, or someone screwed me, or whatever, right? It's easy to do that.
Yeah.
So, Mike, past regrets in your life, how do you personally move forward from them? What do you do?
Yeah, like I've touched on it already, a little bit, right? It's just basically it's kind of like those, you know, not to put a 4-step process into it, but like that's kind of how I've started to think about it is just operating within my area of control, right? Just being able to say, hey, listen, you know what can I change about that? And quite frankly, nothing. What I can do is I can, like you said, take ownership, take responsibility for what happened up to that point and my part of it. Learn from it, and then just move forward. That's essentially the how I go. And that's not to say that I don't. That's not to say that I don't experience the emotion of it at the time, or like even for a little bit, right? But it's not for me. It's not a long dragged out process anymore, right? Like more and more, it's more of a fleeting thing for me where I can kind of, it's kind of cool, right? Because once you're aware of it and you kind of think about it, and you realize what's happening, and you can kind of say, oh, yeah, I recognize that this is what's happening. I'm like, and it's going to keep me stuck. You know,
So,
I'll let myself experience the emotion, right? I'll still get mad. I'll still I'll still drop a few F-bombs here and there, you know what I mean? And do whatever. But at the end of the day, right? Just being able to kind of take a pause and think about it and kind of say, all right, what can I take from this and how we can move forward and be better for it.
I think one of the hardest things for me, which I need to do to move on from regrets, is to be able to forgive myself, to be able to stop punishing myself, let it go, accept that it happened, and do what you have to do to move forward, making progress.
Yeah,
I find that you can beat yourself up so much and not show yourself any grace, and that doesn't serve anyone. That doesn't help you. And I've come to terms just recently that I need to stop beating myself up
mm-hmm.
in order for me to move forward and release that burden. That burden that I force myself to carry, of whether the business not going well or relationships, whatever it may be, because I like to punish myself for whatever the reason. And I think that's the biggest hindrance for me personally in moving forward and living without regrets.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we are the hardest on ourselves. I mean, I think I think to a person we all do it. I think everybody does it. Right. We'll say some things to ourselves that we probably would never say to anybody else, or about anybody else. But more importantly, I think you touched on it a lot when you were talking to Alec. You wouldn't allow somebody else to say that to you. You know what I mean?
It's true. It's true, man.
Yeah.
So, Mike, just to give the audience a little bit of perspective onto your life, what are a couple of the big regrets in your life that if you could go back, you would change?
I guess there's different categories of that. But I guess one big thing is we talked about this a little while ago as far as some of my family dynamic and growing up and stuff like that. But I spent a lot of my life actually seeking acceptance you know, from people, and acceptance from, you know, like my family. I wasn't considered the smartest. You know, I was probably the worst student out of all of us. I mean, wasn't expected to do anything. I didn't do what I was told. I, you know, kind of asked too many questions. Just kind of that. So I think I kind of, you know, kind of cracked my foundation of like as far as confidence is concerned. So just the fact that I lived so long, or spent so much of my life seeking acceptance from others, and not just being able to not expressing myself, you know, as genuinely as I would have liked to. And then I guess, I mean, you know, keeping in theme with what this is, I guess, you know, waiting so long, like not diving into my personal development earlier, not investing into myself earlier. And it's not that I was never told that. It's not like or anything like that, but it was something that's yeah, I was a jackass when I was a kid, so I mean, I wouldn't swear, right? So yeah, it was like, yeah, I'll figure it out, right? I'll figure it out. You know, why am I going to invest into this when I can, you know, I can use that money to party, I can use that money to do other stuff, right? So why am I going to spend time reading when I can go out and do stuff that's that do stuff a lot more fun, you know what I mean? So
That's crazy that I used to think reading was boring. Now, my favorite time of the week is like Saturday mornings. I get my coffee and I read for an hour.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with being told what to read as well, as opposed to being naturally curious, right? And saying, and being like, well, you know what, I want to read this. I want to read about this, right?
Right.
I want to read about that, right? And I want you to tell me what you think about this or anything like that, right? So yeah, that's kind of yeah, I guess that's kind of where I'm at as far as regrets. But again, like I don't, and that's stuff that I really wallow in. So yeah.
Right on, man. So I wonder, like when I do these podcasts, like there's a certain audience we're going to reach. You know, I anticipate an audience that wants to do better, live better, you know, make the most of themselves. But then part of me thinks there's a lot of people that just don't care. Are there people that don't care about living intentionally? Do people really want to live intentionally? Or are people just happy living a mediocre life?
Again, I think it goes back to not knowing that they can, not knowing that you know, how to live in choice, how to like, and that's how I look at living intentionally, right? Like making like active choices and stuff like that. So that's kind of where yeah, again, I think there's a lot of people that don't think that think it's not a possibility. On top of that, I think it's not so much people don't care as well, but I think, like, unfortunately, I mean, like, life is fast, life is busy, right?
It is fast.
This is going on for a lot of people, especially these days, right? And we're constantly bombarded with, you know, the sky is falling. This is happening. This is like, you know,
distractions.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I think, you know, if you don't stop and take a breath, you're not gonna come to that realization that, or you're not even gonna think to care about living intentionally, and making actual choices, right? So yeah, I don't think, I think if people really had realize that they had that choice, then yeah, no, I think they would live intentionally. I think that they would not live like a mediocre life. I think
So
we all grew up with dreams, man. Like,
I,
as kids.
I guess a couple of things. I think not enough people have goals and dreams. I think when you become an adult, you kind of forget about the things you used to dream about as a kid that you wanted to do and be. And I think people lose their way. They don't have a purpose.
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. As far as purpose is concerned, that's huge. Like if it's tough. I think it's tough to not have that sense of purpose, that sense of having a mission, right? A goal in life. Not so much goals, right? I think goals can be kind of external, but but as far as having a purpose, I think it's that. Yeah, I think that's important. It's like that old saying, right? If you if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, right? So, but as far as I'm sorry, man. What was the first part of that? Like,
we're talking about goals, dreams, and purpose.
Yeah.
About regrets. And honestly, I think when you set goals for yourself and you figure out a purpose, you find a reason to do what you want to do, I think it actually slows time down. What do you think of that?
I think it can. Yeah. Like I think
I think a decade can go by and you did nothing, right? Except just you do your daily activities, and you blink and the decade's gone. You worked, you went home, you started your family, you watched TV, and where'd the time go?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and as far as actually, yeah, you talked about dreams, you talked about not having dreams and not having goals and stuff like that. And again, I think there's a lot of people that have just given up on them, right? As well. Going back to not believing that it's possible. And you're right. That's a tough way to go through life. To be able to say, you know what? Hey, what are your goals? I don't have any. I don't think it's possible. What's the point? Right? That living in apathy, to be able to say, well, what's the point? Like, what's the point of having a dream?
Not
going to happen.
You work with people that kind of live for the weekend, but it's like the vision isn't any further out than the weekend.
Yeah.
Right. And when you ask someone, what are your goals? Honestly, I think most people have never been asked that question. Never.
Yeah, I think people hear that and they set goals. Like, they don't set goals for themselves, like goals for how they want to live their lives, how they want to better themselves. And you're right. Like, I think a lot of people like just living for the weekend. And it's just basically the weekend. What's the weekend? It's just an escape for a lot of people, right? There's like their week is like they get there. How many people do you hear get to work on Monday and they're like, it's Monday. I hate Mondays. So I just get to the weekend, right? And then they just go out and they get bombed and do whatever. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with having a couple of drinks or whatever. But at the end of the day, what are you trying to escape?
Honestly, if you do that every weekend, I think there's something wrong with that.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, and I mean, I agree with you. But at the end of the day, right? It seems like that's people's way of just trying to escape, not knowing that there's better out there. There's better for them. That they can do better for themselves. But that I think that goes hand in hand with being stuck. They're stuck, and they're stuck in that grind. They sit there and they're like, all right, you know what? I have to go to work Monday to Friday, and the weekend is my escape. And instead of using that time to maybe better myself or whatever. Part of that escape is just, just getting bombed so you can, just forget about the weekend. And ironically enough, I think that that adds a lot more stress to you, right? Like, because your body starts to break down and just like that, right? You're setting yourself up for disaster.
So I think people also don't allow themselves like time to think about your life. Like, okay, I have 20, 30, 40 years. What do I actually want to accomplish? I don't think people allow themselves to take the time and actually dream and think. Like let's say someone has a woodworking hobby or they want to get into it, right? And they just don't make the time or they don't think they have the time and things like that. I think people have to allow themselves to be able to dream again and kind of, it seems selfish, but it's not selfish, because doing these things makes you a happier person, which changes the world around you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be around for the people that rely on you, and I think for most of us there's more people that rely on us than we realize, and so for some of it's our families, for some of us it's our friends or whatever, but I don't know if we realize sometimes the difference that we can make, just or the difference we might be making in somebody's life. It could be one day that you smile at somebody and that's the thing that kind of gives them some hope. So yeah, I think we're all part of a bigger picture, right? And you're right. I think if you don't take care of yourself, they just see you broken and just kind of and whatever.
And I mean, like I believe in God. I know people who'll be watching this believe all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Some will be religious, some won't be at all, and that's fine. But I think part of it is God has me here for a reason, and I don't want to squander that, right? Because I also believe if I'm going to live the best life possible, it's doing what God wants me to do, which I may not have done in the past, but I want to take every opportunity going forward. And I know God will use me, to inspire a lot of people. And I believe this podcast can reach a lot of people, if I follow and God's leading in my life. And so that's a big motivator for me as well. And so I know that's a motivator for some, but not others, but that's personal for me.
Mm-hmm. I think that goes back to purpose, right? And I think really you have to have purpose in your life. And I think God for a lot of people is it creates that purpose. It creates that feeling of being part of something bigger, right? There's a bigger plan for me. It wasn't just to sit here and just kind of be a taker. I was meant to contribute to this world. I was meant to make a difference. I was meant to make an impact on this world, right? And not necessarily to be remembered, but more to make this world better, right?
And the cool thing about YouTube is that when we're long gone, YouTube is going to be here.
Yeah.
And these videos will be here. And you can leave more of a legacy and an impact than ever before.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Because after you pass away, a few months later, most people will never talk about you. A few years later, people forget your name. And after another generation, no one's going to know you even existed.
Yeah.
So So that's what's cool about technology, and a reason to not care what people think and live, live your life without fear of
Yeah.
what people think, of what might happen. Bad things might happen, great things might happen. Probably a lot of both will happen. The more things you do, a lot of bad and a lot of good will happen. And it's exciting. Like, I remember when I married my wife, I told her, this was 14 years ago, life won't be easy, but it won't be boring. And if anything is true, it hasn't been easy and it hasn't been boring. And you know what? As brutal as life can be sometimes, I'd have it no other way. I'd have it no other way. I want experiences. I want stories to tell. I want to impact millions of people. And you know what? There's nothing else I'd rather do than this right here.
Right.
Like, this is what I want to do, And so I know it's different for everybody, but, you got to take some time. You got to figure it out. It took me a long time to figure it out. And that's just how it goes sometimes.
And I'm glad you brought that up, actually, right? Because that's the one thing that watching you and your wife interact with each other, man, it's a beautiful thing. Like, I love to watch that, man. Like, honestly, you guys, like,
I don't know what you've seen, but you haven't seen it all, I guarantee it.
No, and honestly, yeah, after 14 years, man, like things didn't happen, but I mean, like to watch you guys interact with each other, like say at a party or something like that, to watch you guys dance with each other, like, it's beautiful, man. Like, and that's the one thing that really drew me to you guys, was that's like, to see you guys and be like, hey, wow, look at that, look at the love in that family, in that relationship. So yeah, man, that just reminded me of that. So
that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And I think part of living without regrets is not caring what people think.
Yep.
Like, if people know too much about you, or you make a fool of yourself, I'm on YouTube making a fool of myself. I don't care, man. And I think that is key to living with less regrets in your life. What do you think of that? Like, caring or not caring what people think about you? And does that hold a lot of people back?
Well, first of all, maybe give yourself a little bit of grace. You're not making a fool of yourself, man. Like, you're putting yourself out there, and people are going to be better for it, right? You said right from the get-go, right from the beginning, when you kind of introduced this podcast, right? You said, "Listen, I don't I don't know what I'm doing, but I just need to do it. I need to get it done because I want to do it, right?" And you talked about the fear of doing it, the fear of putting yourself out there, and yet you're going out and you're doing it. So absolutely, you were not making a fool of yourself. That being said, I'm sorry, man. Like, I went on a little tangent and I forgot what the.
No, just talk about like what people think. Like, does that
exactly.
Does that keep them from doing what they want to do?
Well, like I said, I mean, and that's so true, right? And that's again, going back, that's one of my regrets is, searching for acceptance. Part of that is being afraid of what other people think, and 100% it holds people back, right? 100% it tells it, like, people will sit there and go, I won't do this because because so and so is going to think this. They're going to think I'm stupid, right? They're going to. So yeah, 100%. That's something that definitely holds people back from doing the things that they want to do and living authentically, living, genuinely.
That's a great point, man. Because honestly, like I said on my last podcast with Alec, I can't go back and watch these because it makes me insecure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I go back and watch these, I'm not going to make them anymore. I'm not going to do this anymore. So I know I can't go back and watch them. I just have to keep recording new ones.
Okay. I mean, I would, part of me would challenge you and say, go ahead and watch them, because they're not. I don't see them as being that bad. Like that last one with Alec was great, and funny enough, actually, that was part of one of the things that kind of went, oh man, I gotta follow that, because I thought that was really good. I thought Alec was great.
He was, man,
and he had a lot of real cool insights into things, into life, and into whatever. So I thought that was great. So yeah, shout out to that guy. But the other part of me is, I almost don't want to challenge you to do that, because I want you to keep making these, man. This is what you want to do, right?
It is.
Yeah. So whatever it takes to keep your foot on the gas, keep you going, do that, man. Because I think I heard you talking about some of the other people that you had lined up to do this, and man, that'd be cool. It'd be cool to watch. It'd be cool to share that platform with somebody else. I
have 20 people lined up who've agreed to come on it, and some are friends and some are extremely, extremely well-known people. And I'm excited to get better at this. See, because I think a lot of people live with regrets because they don't want to try something because they're afraid of failure or looking stupid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, my first podcast episodes are going to be worse than as you get better. You try something for the first time, you're going to suck, and you have to swallow your pride. Like my first episode is all blurry. And I was going to re-record it, and a couple of good friends of mine said, just leave it alone and move on.
Yep.
So I left it alone and moved on, and that's what I'm going to do. Yep. And so, Mike, 2 more questions for you.
Yeah.
If you had 12 months to live, what would you do different than you're doing now? If anything.
I'm sorry?
Like, if what would you change if there's anything at all, if you had 12 months to live?
It's funny. Because as much as I try, I've been trying to live, and I'm still getting better at it. I'm still working at it, as we all are, right? As far as living intentionally, life. There are responsibilities in life that we need to take care of. But that being said, I mean, with 12 months left to live, a lot of those responsibilities wouldn't seem as important to me. So I think with that, what I would do differently is I would spend a lot more time with the people in my life that I care about. And kind of finding ways to kind of, I guess, add value to them, add value to their lives, and impart whatever, whatever wisdom or whatever, not that I have a lot, but whatever I have, I like impart on them, right? That will help them move forward, especially with my kids. That'd be huge. Teach them to be resilient, because I think that's probably one of the biggest gifts that we can give our kids. I think the tendency for us is to try to give them the life that we didn't have. Give them the things the like the toys and like, the monetary things that we might not have had, and almost to their detriment. I think what we should be doing is trying to give them, or teach them to be resilient,
Equip them for life.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've even said that. I mean, like, and she's a teenager and she's like, oh, dad. But, it's like, listen, like my job isn't to give you stuff.
No.
My job is to prepare you for when I'm not here anymore. And the honest truth is we don't know how long that is.
And you know what? I think being aware of our own mortality is a very healthy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not being scared of dying.
No.
But just being aware that we have limited time and we don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
So, Mike, one more question. How do you want to be remembered? Like whether you say, what do you want written on your tombstone, or what do you want people to say at your funeral? How do you want to be remembered?
As somebody that cared. Somebody that made a difference. Especially in the people in my life, that I made people feel valued, because they are. Basically, I love this place better than I found it. Yeah, that's yeah.
Cool. Mike, it has been a pleasure, man. Before we go, is there anything you want to add? Anything we haven't talked about?
I don't know, man. Like we got there. I mean, it's such a deep topic, right?
It is.
It's such a deep thing.
I want to share something personal.
Okay.
I have a lot of regrets, and I haven't talked about a lot of them on this podcast yet, and they'll come out over time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited because you made me an offer this week. You wanted to work with me, right?
Yeah.
And I've been thinking, and there's one thing I want to work on, and it is dealing with the biggest regret in my life and just working through it. And you have no idea what it is yet.
No.
And I'm not going to tell you right now.
That's okay.
But I'm really excited because one of the reasons I started this thing was because I got so many regrets. Mm-hmm. And like, what great accountability than to start a No Regrets podcast to get my shit together, right? And so I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to work with you. And actually, you know what? That did bring you did kind of. I did think of something as well, right? And this is why, like when you said this is why I went on that. Part of the reason I went on this tangent, right? A little bit when you said, "Hey, here I am making a fool of myself on YouTube and stuff." It's how, like, part of it is you went, "I'm going to do this," right? And I don't care. I mean, and like maybe I look silly doing it, and the quality is not going to be great or whatever. But you said something early on. You said, "I'm just going to do it," right? Because if I don't just do it, I'm not going to do it. So and I've been kicking around conceptually a podcast in my head as well, right? So I was like, oh, you know, like, so that's what really impressed me was, you just went out and you went, yeah, right. Let's go. I'm doing it. Right. And that's something that's you kind of, is kind of the catalyst for me starting to ask questions on, okay, how do I do this? And, and what do I do? Like, it's funny. Cause like, right now I'm kind of like, I don't really have, like my own kind of space. Like, I don't like, you can hear my dog in the background. You probably hear my, my wife talking on the phone, like in the background and stuff like that. Right. So I don't have this, like, it's just a matter of finding a space. And that's something that, like, minor obstacles that I will tweak or whatever.
Mike, that's a lame excuse, my man.
No. It's, and what I'm saying is It's not. I'm not using that as an excuse because really what it is it's a catalyst for me to start that process myself. So
Cool.
so I look forward to that. And you know what? Turnaround's fair play, man. I'd love to have you on it when I do have it. And well, I'll talk about the concept of it later in a little bit. But I'm just kind of putting things on paper and putting things
Cool.
like conceptually ahead and going from there. So
And you know what? Any
be-
assistance I can
continue.
provide to help you get going, like I'm more than happy to help, man. Like work through ideas, whatever.
Oh yeah, I'll take you up on that.
Let's go,
Because
man.
I'm going back to asking a lot of questions of a lot of people, right?
Cool.
And just finding who's doing what I want to be doing, and start asking questions. So yeah, man. Yeah, this was awesome. This was a great experience, and like I said, it was. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this.
Wow.
And it was both terrifying and
It is
exciting, man. It really is. It really is. But unlike you, I will watch it. I'll watch it again.
You watch it.
And you know what though?
And
I'll put it out there too, right? I'll put it out there for sure.
awesome, man. Mike, thank you so much, man. It's my honor and my pleasure.
The honor was mine, man. The honor was mine. And yeah, I'm just glad you got me on early because from some of the other people that I've heard about you having on here, that'd be tough to follow. Alec was tough enough to
That's
follow.
why I have you on first because
I appreciate it, man. I really do.
all right, Mike. Thank you. Have a fantastic night.
Thanks, you too, man.
See you.